7 years. But we were also the highest paying team those years. So one of the national newspapers interviewed me and he headlined me as foolishly passionate. So, the word foolishly was very bold in that headline. So I think in some ways, you and I both are foolishly passionate. That, you've been an excellent hockey player. You've captained the India team. You've won so many medals for the India team. Then you went and did a great MBA at one of the best schools, that is the Indian School of Business. And we thought that you will be somewhere in the corporate world, trying to contribute to India's GDP in the other way. But, you chose sports again. And I think OGQ is very lucky to have a passionate person like you. First of all, some of the most prominent sports people in the country have entrusted you with this job. I think that is brilliant itself. That speaks about you. And I think what is more important for us, all of us today, is to hear from you is what has driven you to this, And we've seen the results with OGQ. I mean, I have been part of OGQ now, I think almost for a decade now, if I'm not, I remember when you got Saina, Nehwal and all to Goa, and we did that kickoff event. But there have been so many heroes that you all have produced. And it'll be very, very interesting to know from you as to what is this, when India is such a large nation, it has a huge population. We are now the most populous in the world. And why has sports taken a sort of not a priority item in the Indian system in the past? And what have people like you done? You've gone ahead and beaten the stereotypes and you've played hockey. Now, hockey itself, India was such a respected country. And then we suddenly lost it and, we were nowhere in the hockey scene. And why is it that we have not been able to produce medals? But we are seeing results now. And I know that OGQ has a great part in that. So what did it take you to sort of, motivate people to join you and perform where they have to, because it's highly competitive. It is highly driven. It's more of the training of the mind and the body. We all know that. And it's not easy. It's not easy in the international space. Countries like China have way scored over us. And they took it as a priority, So where do you think India is in the future in this race? And while everything cannot be equated with money, I think it's the pride of the nation. We all need to feel proud when somebody wins a medal for us, when somebody performs well and, is there in, the top three, goes to the podium, receives a medal. It's a great occasion for the whole country. And you are at the helm of affairs at the OGQ. So for me, sports is something which drives, pride in all the fellow countrymen, whether it is, and I know that we have done well in some compared to the others. So I also wanted your take on, why is it that we are good in badminton, wrestling, and why are we not good in certain other sports, So because it'll be useful since you interact with these people and some of the stories, some of the inspirational stories that, these people have come out of nowhere. Some of your medal tally winners have come out of nowhere. And what is it that has driven them? Why is it that they came to you? What is it that you did to them? And how is it that they won medals? So what I would expect you to do is pass a few opening comments, what you feel like. And then probably we take it as a question answer session. And then I'll also ask some of my colleagues in AIMA to ask you questions. But really very, very happy that you could do this for us and really looking forward to this interaction. Welcome again.
No, thank you very much, sir. Lovely to be here and to interact with all the wonderful folk on this call. Just to start from just my own personal background, sir. I remember 1996 Atlanta Olympics. I was a young teenager at that time. And I watched on TV Leander Pace winning the Olympic bronze medal in tennis. And for me, that was you can say my moment of inspiration. My sport was hockey, and like Leander, I wanted to play for India. I wanted to captain the country. I wanted to play at the Olympics. I wanted to win an Olympic medal. And I was very lucky that my first three dreams got fulfilled. But the final one of actually winning an Olympic medal myself as a player, that remained unfulfilled. And I'll tell you the story of what happened at Athens 2004 when I played. But before that, I was very lucky. I'm born and brought up in Mumbai, and I stay in Bandra, which is a very, I would say, a hockey and football playing suburb of Mumbai. And I was in one of those old Jesuit schools called St. Stanislaus High School, and we had a lot of playgrounds. And my school is 175 years old now, and but besides playgrounds and hockey and football were part of the culture, I think what was also crucially important for me is I had a very good coach in school. He was a hockey Olympian himself, and his name was Marcellus Gomes, and he represented India at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. So right from the time I was 10 years old, I was blessed to have a good coach who taught me not just the technical skills of hockey, but I think he taught me so many other life lessons. He taught me about discipline, about teamwork, about never giving up, and about pushing the limits. And I think if it wasn't for that coach that I had in school, I don't think I would have ever gone to play for India. And we all have that one teacher or one coach or one mentor or professor who made a difference to our lives. And for me, it was Marcellus Gomes when I was 10 years old. And I think I was very lucky to have the right coach. And I think that of all the 100 ingredients that go into the mix of building a champion or a champion team, I think the coach is the most important ingredient. So that's something that is very important for Indian sport. And many people ask me, Viren, why aren't we doing better in sport? I think if there's one thing we should really focus on is the quality of coaches at every level. Sir, you yourself know you have been part of Dempo Club for so many, your family has owned Dempo Club for so many years. I think what we need to teach is the kids, the talented kids who are 9, 10, 11 years old, teach them the right things, the right values, the right technical skills, the right skills of teamwork and effort and never giving up. I think if we improve the grassroots level coach in our country, India in general will do much better in sport. That's just a little bit on the grassroots. Just on my at the Athens Olympics, I just want to tell you what happened over there. So India was playing Australia in a very crucial league match, and India had to beat Australia to reach the Olympic semi-final. For Australia, a draw was enough to come through to the semi-final from our pool. India was leading 1-0 in the first half. Australia made it 1-1 at halftime. It was 1-1. That time, hockey was 2 halves of 35 minutes. Now it is 4 quarters of 15 minutes. In the second half, Dhanraj Pillai, you all know Dhanraj got a yellow card and he was suspended for 10 minutes. Now, it's tough playing against Australia 11 versus 11. It's almost bordering on the impossible when you play 10 versus 11 for 10 minutes. In that 10-minute period, they scored 2 goals. They were leading us 3-1. In the Dhanraj came back on the pitch. India made it 3-2. With 7 minutes left on the clock, India made it 3-all. We were throwing the kitchen sink at Australia because we had to find the winning goal. With 4 minutes left on the clock, we hit the Australian goal post. The ball hit the post and came back into play. In the final 10 minutes, I think we got 5 penalty corners, but everything we threw at the Australian goal, their goalkeeper saved it that night. With 52 seconds left on the clock, India had a free hit on top of the Australian D area. Except our goalkeeper, all 10 of us went on top to try and score. And then what happened in that final minute happened in a blur, because in our urgency to try and score, one of us made a mistake. The Australians intercepted the ball in their D. They counter-attacked us, and with 20 seconds left on the clock, Australia scored the winning goal that night. Australia won that match 4-3. That match finished around 10 p.m. Athens time. I remember crying on the sidelines till around 12 midnight, because for me it was around 7 years of effort that had gone into preparing for the Olympics. I remember being very angry and frustrated, not because India lost, not because one of us made a mistake. I think I was angry and frustrated at the system, which I feel did not gear us well enough to handle the pressure against the best teams in the world. As you said, sir, mentally it's so much over there to keep your composure, keep your nerve in those moments that really matter. I didn't think that we were trained well enough to do that. And that Australian men's hockey team went on to win the gold medal at Athens 2004 for the first time in their history. And India and me only participated. And the reason I wanted to tell the story is just to say that at the highest level of sport, the difference between winning Olympic gold and just participating can sometimes boil down to 20 seconds on the clock or the width of a goalpost. And the margins are very fine in world sport. And it's about those 1%ers. If we get 1% better in coaching, 1% better in equipment, 1% better in endurance, in nutrition, cumulatively that's 5-6% better. That's the difference. When your heartbeat is at 200 beats a minute, you have nothing left in the tank, you have no gas left in the tank, you're dying for the final whistle. That's the time. Can you keep your composure when you get that one chance and you have a split second to score? Do you have, and that's why athletes train for 10,000 hours to make it count in that 1 second when you get that chance.
Thank you. That was a very, very interesting story that you said. I think two things come out very strongly, Viren. One is you talked about a coach, and I fully agree with you that a coach can make all the difference. And the second is grassroots development. I think India hasn't focused in many years on grassroots development. I think now it is happening in bits and pieces. For example, you are aware we invested in a football academy about 5 years back. And just for the benefit of everyone here, in 2 years, we sent 2 boys in the under India 15 team. These guys they were just picked up. They came from very humble backgrounds, economic backgrounds. So, we have a hostel, we kept them there, we gave them the entire nutrition package that the consultant had designed, trained them, and they made it. So, there are lots of passionate people in India. And one thing that as a sportsman, I want to ask you, and we deal with this in also the corporate world, is the word called failure. Or can you encounter some things that what you felt was a failure for you and how you encountered it, because everyone goes through ups and downs in lives. And I think sports is no different. You have your up career, you have your down career. So how did you fight against some of the moments that you thought it would have never exist?
Yeah. So I think, as an athlete, and as a sports person, you probably lose more than you win in life. And I have definitely lost much more than I've won in life. And I think the two greatest challenges to athletes is when you lose, and secondly, when you're sick or injured. And good systems and good processes take care of athletes for the long run, especially during the hard times. And I remember during my hockey career, I played about 8-9 years in the Indian hockey team. In those 8-9 years, I actually fractured. I had 4 finger fractures, because in hockey you get hit with the stick or the ball, and very often. And every time you get a finger fracture, you're out for around 3 months minimum. And when you're out of action, your fitness drops very quickly. It takes months to get fitness back. It drops very quickly. I used to you lose your place in the Indian team. You lose your confidence, and then you have to fight yourself back to your way back into the team right from scratch. And then when you're out of the team, you get treated like shit, basically. And it's a wonder. Here I was one of the best players in the Indian team. But when I'm injured, no one asked about me. No one took care of me. I promised myself that one day, if I got the chance, we would do it differently. And, after I retired from the Indian team fairly early, as you mentioned, I went to ISB. I actually had a conventional corporate job, campus placement. I was about to start that when I happened to meet two of our sports legends, Geet Sethi and Prakash Padukone. They need no introduction. Geet, 9-time world Q Sports champion, Prakash Padukone. There are a lot of senior people I can see on the call, but to youngsters, I have to tell them that Prakash sir is not just Deepika's father, okay? He's played a little bit of badminton in his life. And so they had started this not-for-profit foundation called OGQ with a very sharp mission to help Indian athletes win Olympic gold medals. And to me, it was a great opportunity and platform to work with people who I considered as God, and to help the next generation of athletes do something that I couldn't do, which is win Olympic medals. And you say, sir, the challenges during the tough times. I want to tell you a quick story about PV Sindhu. Today, everyone sees Sindhu as one of India's greatest Olympic athletes. 2 Olympic medals in singles badminton. You know, 2004 Athens, when I played, India had 2 singles players in the Olympics who qualified. Nikhil Kanitkar in men's singles and Aparna Popat in women's singles. Nikhil lost in the first round, Aparna lost in the second round. And no one was surprised because that was our standard back then in 2004. And no one would have dreamt that 8 years later, Saina would win India's first Olympic medal in badminton. Sindhu has won 2 medals after that consecutively. But, you know, we started supporting Sindhu in 2009-10 when she was 14 years old. And I remember when I first went to Gachibowli, Gopi Chand Academy, met Gopi and her parents, and I asked them if there was one thing that OGQ could do to support Sindhu, what would that be? And they unanimously said international exposure for training and competition, because you have to remember, this was a 14-year-old schoolgirl. No one knew her name. She was just a talented young girl on the domestic circuit. Her parents could not afford to send her abroad. Now, in 2010, OGQ did not have much funds to support Sindhu, but we had real belief in our ability. So we somehow put together the funds to send her for 5 international tournaments abroad with a coach, with a physio. That was the time she won her first senior international tournament, the Maldives International Challenge. Chotu sa tournament, but very big in terms of the confidence it gave a young 15-year-old girl. At the age of 17, she started playing Super Series tournaments, the highest level of women's international badminton tournaments. In that year, sir, she played 12 Super Series tournaments. 10 tournaments she lost in the first round. Not once, not twice, not thrice, 10 times. And that year, it impacted her confidence so much. I've seen her throw her racket on the ground in Gachibowli in Hyderabad and say, you know, I do not want to play badminton. I'm not good enough. And I think we all go through that phase at some point of time in our life where we're trying everything, but nothing is working. And I recognize from my own experience that was a very crucial period in the life of a talented athlete where you're doing everything possible, but there's no light at the end of the tunnel. We gave her a very good sports psychologist to work with, ensure the team stood by her. Thankfully, she came out of that rut. Not many people know that exactly 9 months before the Rio Olympics, Sindhu had a foot fracture. We took all the scans. We showed her to the best orthopedic surgeons. Everyone said Sindhu's out for 4 months. On the day the injury happened, she was ranked world number 9. Because she was going to be out for 4 months, her world ranking would drop. If she dropped out of the top 16 on the cutoff date, she would have been out of the Rio Olympics. Now, how much her ranking dropped was not in our control. What was in our control was to get Sindhu back in the quickest possible time. Within 12 hours of the injury happening, Sindhu, her parents, Gopi Chand, our entire OGQ sports science team, the physio, trainer, nutritionist, we sat together. We prepared a day-to-day plan of Sindhu's recovery, her rehabilitation, her strengthening, her return to jogging, return to training on court, and finally return back to competition. In exactly 3 months, 10 days from the date of the injury, Sindhu played her first competitive match again. That was world-class recovery by any standards. And in the life of an elite athlete, every single day, every single training session matters. And Sindhu eventually qualified for Rio. And when she went to Rio, she was in the best shape of her life. I would say not just physically, but mentally between here. She beat 3 opponents who were higher ranked than her. All 3 had better head-to-head records than her. And I asked her at the end of it, Sindhu, what happened? How come you played so well? And like she told me something that meant so much to me. She told me, Viren, in the last 7 years that OGQ has been supporting me, the support has been so world class. We started supporting at 14. She won the Olympic silver medal at 21. She said, in these last 7 years, been so world class that for some reason, every time I stepped on the court at Rio, I just believed deep down that I could beat anybody. And that meant so much to me because when I rewound the clock 12 years prior to that at Athens 2004, I don't think that the Indian men's hockey team deep down believed that we could beat Australia. And that was the mindset of India back in the late 90s, early 2000s, where I think we were happy with participating. We were satisfied with participating at the Olympics. And if you ask me, sir, what is the one biggest change or difference in Indian sport in the last decade? It's just this belief in the young kids coming from the small town and villages. OGQ supports 355 of the most talented young Olympic and Paralympic athletes. 95% of these come from small towns and villages, not from the Bombays, Delhis, and Bangalores of the world. And in India, the irony is that where the money and wealth and resources are, the hunger and the fire and the talent is not there. And where the hunger and fire and talent is not there, the resources and the structure and the process and the coaches are not there. So we have to marry these together. And I think heroes and role models like Sindhu inspire a million young boys and girls to do whatever they want and believe that they can actually do it. So belief is critical.
I remember Abhinav Bindra telling me one day that it's 99% mental and 1% physical. So, and you said the same story about the badminton. So, Viren, I just want you to give an overview of OGQ, because many of our members may not know much about OGQ, though most of us have heard it. So, what is the process that you follow? In probably about a few minutes, if you could just give an overview of OGQ, that will be nice.
Sure, sir. So OGQ, we are a not-for-profit foundation with a mission to help Indian athletes win Olympic and Paralympic gold medals. It was founded by Rekha Sethi and Prakash Padukone. Vishwanathan Anand is also on the board. Luminaries from the corporate world, Neeraj Bajaj, who also straddles both sides, sport and corporate world, Shitin Desai, Mukesh Bansal, etc., Samir Kotecha, etc. So it's a good mix of people from the sporting as well as corporate world. We all come together to help the most talented young Indian athletes. Being a not-for-profit Section 8 foundation, we raise funds through donations. These donations come in 3 ways: donations from individuals, donations from family foundations, donations from CSR from corporates. The funds that we raise go towards the training and preparation of our most talented young athletes. It's an extremely rigorous process to get into the program. Every single athlete of the 355 athletes that are on our program today, we would have researched for at least 1 year before they get onto the program. Because once we start supporting them, it's going to be a long journey before we win Olympic medals. Our 5 in Olympic sport, we support athletes from 9 individual Olympic sports, but we focus on 5. That is badminton, boxing, shooting, archery, and wrestling. Why these 5 sports? Because all our research over the last decade has shown that these are the sports where India has the best chance of winning Olympic medals. If you look at current pool of talent, if you look at pipeline of talent for the future, if you look at comparison with world standards, also if you analyze the Olympic medal tally of the last 6 Olympics, going back to Sydney 2000, and you look at the top 30 nations in the medal tally, you will see that most of these nations win around 80% of their medals from only 4 sports. So the lesson here is to win Olympic medals, a nation has to focus, and go deep. If you try to correct your weaker points, you may be able to do that, but that will be a 15-year period. And the harsh fact is, no one wants to fund a 15-year program. So one of the DNAs of OGQ is to be focused on excellence. We support these athletes by ensuring they have the best coaches, be it Indian or foreign, the best training facilities, be it in India or abroad. We ensure they have the best equipment. On sports like shooting and archery, equipment is very critical. Take, for example, in archery, the equipment comprises of about 33 parts. It costs around 4 lakhs. A young, talented archer coming from a remote village in Jharkhand, say 13, 14-year-old, cannot afford archery equipment that costs 4, 5 lakhs. So as Prakash sir says, we have to identify the right talent at the right time, ensure they get the right equipment at the right time, and ensure they have the right coach also at the right time. So many factors have to come together. We have also put together a team of world-class doctors, physios, nutritionists, mental trainers, everyone in the back end. You all might have heard of Lakshya Sen, the young boy, a badminton player who won the Commonwealth Games gold medal last year. OGQ started supporting Lakshya when he was 10 years old. He hails from Almora district in Uttarakhand. When we started supporting him in 2011, sir, he was coming up to my waist. Now he's 21 years old. He's 2 inches taller than me. And you have seen the journey over the last decade. So we are in it for the long run. We hope to produce many Olympic and world champions. And I think sport is a great tool for nation building. We all feel proud when our athletes stand on the podium, when they win Olympic medals, when they inspire all of us, when they inspire a million young boys and girls to do whatever they want. And I just think sport teaches us so many life lessons that maybe the classroom may not be able to teach us. And I just want to take this opportunity to say a big thank you to you again, Sir Dempo sir, for all your tremendous support, not just monetary, but just your encouragement, your rock solid support. And I see Mr. Deepak Premnarayan also, he's also been supporting us for over a decade. So thank you, Deepak sir, as well. Many people from the corporate world who have supported us for so long, and without your support, it's not possible to support these athletes.
My last question, and then probably I'll open the floor. You said that, OGQ focuses on certain sports and that's based on research. We also find, and my opening comments with you was, why is it that we do well in certain sports and we don't do well in other sports? Like, for example, our group has taken football as a mission. And I know it's not an easy mission because traditionally India has not been a footballing nation. When we go and try and make the football sport viable, we get a lot of discouragement from TV channels, and they say that it's 90% cricket and 10% all other sports. What would be your advice as a sports person? Do I continue doing things, or is there no hope, or how does one change this landscape? I know that physically we may not be that fit. If you see the Brazilians play, or if you see the Germans play, and if you see Indian players in football today, and I'm giving football just as an example, there are so many other sports that we may not be very good at the moment. Are you hopeful of the future that India can enlarge its medal tally by getting into other sports, or should we just focus on the sports that you mentioned? What's your take on it?
Yeah. I think, first of all, I would say that I'm extremely optimistic about the talent. My job gives me the opportunity to travel the length and breadth of the country, trying to identify the best young talent. And I have no doubt in my mind that we have tremendous talent. I think you don't have to be big in size. In sport, generally, you have to be quick and strong. So whether it is sports like chess, where it's a game of the mind, or it's a game like football, the greatest player in the world is Messi, who is maybe 5 feet 8 inches, 7 inches tall. Or, when I was playing hockey, there was an Australian guy, Jamie Dwyer, was the world player of the year, who was smaller and tinier than me, but he was just so quick and strong. So I think with the right sports science, with the right nutrition, we can overcome DNA. Look at the Indian women's hockey team, sir. in the Rio Olympics, the women's hockey team finished last, 12th out of 12 teams. By the way, they qualified after 36 years for the Olympics. Previously, they qualified only in 1980. Now, the team that finished last in Rio, they finished fourth in the Tokyo Olympics, just missed out on an Olympic medal, lost the bronze medal playoff match, beat world number one Australia in the quarterfinals. What happened in the 5 years between Rio and Tokyo that made this difference? I think just tremendous coaching, tremendous sports science. See, most Indian athletes come from small towns, small villages growing up. They have had no knowledge about the right training, the right recovery, the right nutrition. If we're able to give them the right intelligence, the right support, this gap can be bridged. In terms of making sport viable, I think there's not any one single factor. There are many factors that have to come together. Number one, I think we have to work a lot on grassroots level sport. We don't do enough of that. We don't have enough of community sport, school sport, university sport. We don't have enough of coaches at all levels. That is number one. Number two is, I think, sport needs to be shown on TV, and plus obviously online coverage is much more these days, so it has to be more accessible. Third, we need heroes and role models. If you have more Mary Coms, Sindhu, Sainas, Vinesh Fogart, you're definitely going to improve sport in the country. More Sunil Chetris, more Baichung Bhutias in every sport. And last but not the least, I think one critical factor is good, strong sports administration and visionary sports leaders. And look at what the BCCI has done over so many years. We all know back in the 80s, hockey was over cricket, but today cricket is far out of sight for all other sports. So I think good, strong sports administration at any case, I think this is not rocket science. I think just being professional, getting the right people in the right positions, being transparent, accountable, ensuring we show impact. These are key boxes that we have to tick in sport to make sport viable. And, I think there is no dearth of talent and there's no dearth of possible money that can flow into the game.
Thanks, Viren. That's very assuring. Mr. Dwarkanath, you have a question. If you can ask your question, please.
Good afternoon, Viren. It's a great talk. I am glad that you declined the offer given to you at ISB campus in 2009. I'm really, to hear you after so many years is a great pleasure. I'm a great fan of sports. I just want to ask you one question. I know what letter you have written. What is your dream? I think you fulfilled that dream today. That's very happy after 14 years. I could say that with confidence. But my question to you is, is there any message you want to give it to corporate leaders to promote sports in a more professional way? I know Dempos do, Salgankars do, Tatas do, but there are many other corporate giants who can help. If there is something which you can help in giving a message to them, what is it would be?
Yeah, right. So I think I'm fairly. I can think of 2-3 things. First of all, thank you for your kind words, sir. And yeah, we go back a long way. So thank you for all your support, sir. I think one is similar to say what the Dempos have done, where they have picked one sport, football, and gone really deep. They had a top club team. Now they've gone into grassroots levels. They had focus and they've gone really deep, and they've achieved excellence to a large extent in football. Or say Tatas, who have done phenomenal work with the Tata Archery Academy in Jamshedpur, or the Tata Football Academy that was for a long period of time in the 90s, early 2000s, producing a lot of players that went on to play for India. So pick one sport, go deep, or pick one region, go deep. I think the Odisha government is doing fantastic in pushing sport in a long way. I think ensuring that there's people who are part of the sporting project are people who understand sport, people who have empathy towards athletes. I think even in terms of job opportunities, And yes, we know that PSUs have given a lot of jobs to athletes over the years, Indian Oil, Bharat Petroleum, ONGC, etc. But if you just as a corporate think about the qualities that we look in our young employees, right? You want discipline, you want teamwork, you want focus, you want people to be goal oriented. I think athletes have all these skill sets and talents. What we have to ensure that we guide them in the right direction, give them the right training, and you'll possibly have the best employees for your corporate for the long run. People who know how to work in teams, people who know how to lead. And I would say, so a combination of this. So don't try to do 10 things in sport, try to do one thing and do it well.
Thank you, Viren. Thank you, Srini.
Thank you. Viren, I wanted to ask you a question. Just as we have targets in the corporate world, I know you want to produce medal tallies in the Olympics, Commonwealth Games. Do you have any target fix as to where you want to take India in this, in terms of number of athletes or number of medals, or how do you decide in OGQ? I mean, if you could just give us a flavor.
Yeah, first of all, I'll tell you, sir. So in the Tokyo Olympics, India won 7 medals. 4 out of the 7 medal winners were supported by OGQ. Sindhu, Mirabai Chanu, Lavlina Borgohain, and Ravi Kumar. But just to tell you what went behind the scenes for that, maybe we started supporting. We were researching 7-8 years before that on 1,000 athletes. Finally, 110 approximately was selected. In 2015, 2016, we had a bunch of 110 athletes that we selected to work towards Tokyo 2020, which, as you know, got postponed to 21. Out of those 110, 30 qualified for the Olympics. And out of those 30, 4 actually won medals. So from 1,000 athletes, 4 won medals. So that's the kind of ratios that we are working with and what we are researching on to what will finally happen. I think to currently in the Tokyo Olympics, by winning 7 medals, one gold, India finished, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but around 48th in the medal tally. I think that we can finish top 10 in the medal tally. Not now, say around 3 or 4 Olympics from now. To finish top 10 in the medal tally, you have to win about 9 Olympic gold medals and totally about 20 to 25 medals. I think that's possible because, you know, I'll just do simple. I'm just talking about the goals now, the 9 gold medals. If you do simple back of the envelope calculations, India won 7 medals at Tokyo. Ideally, we should have won at least 10. We did not win a medal in shooting. We did not win a medal in archery. Mary Kom missed out on a medal. Vinesh Fogart missed out on a medal. Amit Pangal missed out on a medal. Deepak Punya, the wrestler, just missed out on a medal. Ideally, we should have won at least 10 medals. Assumption, all 10 were bronze. Like I mentioned at the start of my story, the margin between a bronze and a gold is very minuscule. I think in a 10-year period, that gap can be bridged, but it needs the right political will, it needs a world-class team, and it needs sustained funding. These are 3 main, I would say, inputs that we have to put into the program to bridge that gap to be top 10 in the world. And if we are top 10 in the world, I think it would answer your question of the commercial viability of sport. And leagues and corporates getting more involved in sport and getting more and more professionalism into it.
Thank you. I have a question in the chat box from Mr. Rekha Sethi, who says, where and how can we improve with sincere training with honest coaches, considering what's happening to our decorated women wrestlers nowadays?
Yeah, see, I don't want to get into the politics of it. And as we know, this has become a very political issue. But just from the point of view of an athlete and the empathy factor, first and foremost, like I said, we have to have strong administration. We have to have fair administration. We have to have a safe place for sports for our young athletes. Dempo sir, you have two daughters. I have a young daughter. Tomorrow, my daughter will be playing sport, and we have to ensure that sport and any working environment has to be a safe place. So, be it coaches, be it administrators, we have to ensure that processes are in place that uh, that sport especially is an extremely safe environment. Without that, which parent will send their daughters to play sport? So it's up to all of us to ensure that the system is strong enough, and women especially have a voice in the system. And for that, I think we need more and more women decision makers in sport, and more women decision makers at every level, really.
Just for your information, Viren, my daughter is taken up to fencing in the university in the US. So
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. By the way, fencing is one of the upcoming sports that we're actually researching. Even in India, there's a lot of talent, but we need to now develop it. So it's great to hear that.
Next question comes from Yashwant Chavan. He says, my question is, how can we as individuals or organizations or society replicate the culture of coaching in sports to nurture championship mindset in all walks of human existence and thereby empower our nation?
Excellent question. I would just say that, in one way, right from the school level, and I think, the PT or PE, whatever you call it, physical education, physical training teacher or instructor, is given a very low level in the structure of teachers, right? The maths and science teacher has much more respect than the physical education teacher. I think all of us should put them on same power. And otherwise, PT teachers only used as an invigilator in the exams to see that our kids are not copying. I mean, come on, they have to be given much more respect in the system. And I think, in a way, if we can encourage community sport, now it's great to see people can earn a living by being coaches, whether tennis coaches, badminton coaches, boxing coaches. I think coaching has become more structured. There are more job opportunities. It's more acceptable. And we just have to give coaches respect in the system all throughout. And it's up to all of us, right from the unit of individual, family, school, community, all of these places. And just do the little things that make a difference.
Thank you. The next question is, what would be your advice for parents of a child, 5-year-old, in terms of training and choosing sports as a career?
First of all, 5 years is really young. They should just be having fun. I think until 13 years, allow your kid to play all sport. And I have to tell you a funny story. So, I come from a very conservative middle-class family. No one in my family played sport. Mom was a doctor. Dad was an engineer. Back in the 80s and 90s, growing up, parents were very strict. They were super strict with my eldest brother. He eventually became an engineer. They were medium strict with my middle brother. He was really good in football, played at a very high level. Eventually, he also became an engineer. And I was the third and lucky one, the youngest, because by the time I came along, my parents are not bothered at all. So that's how they allowed me to play hockey. But, I think the good part is that I had fun playing all sports. I love playing all sports. And then specialize little later at around 13, 14. Until then, I think the modern sports science actually says the skill sets that you develop playing different sports actually will help you in the final sport that you go to. And also, like I said earlier, I think the lessons that sport teaches you, the classroom can probably never teach you. And actually the most important one is learning how to lose and taking the lessons from that. So I think it's super important for all of us as a nation to encourage our kids to play sport.
So one question, I saw that in the chat box as well as I have it written down. What kind of management and technology know-how is involved in sports today? Because you are running a very professional organization. Things like AI and, stuff like that, which probably I saw one football machine that day for the goalkeeper where, at high speeds, the machine throws and then it calculates as to what is your reflex. And, it's becoming very, very complex. And this will also become, sports will become extra competitive. So where do you think this is going and what are you doing in terms of deploying technology?
Yeah. See, I think technology and sports science is very important. When we talk about the 1%ers, I think it can make a big difference. I will give you a couple of examples. So we use a athlete monitoring software, which is called athlete monitoring. It's a Canadian-based software where we used to we use it to measure various parameters of our elite athletes. So the athlete monitoring system helps us to monitor their sleep cycles, their load management during training sessions, their fatigue levels, their hydration levels. So there are so many factors, and it helps us plan for the right training sessions, how much load to give, how much load not to give, when to give them rest, when not to give them rest. But I think we should always be rational in using technology. But there's no doubting that technology has changed so much. And again, I want to give you a quick example on hockey, how much hockey has changed over the years. In hockey, there is a rule called rolling substitution. In football, you have a maximum of 3 substitutions allowed in a 90-minute match. In hockey, there is there's no limit on the number of substitutions. That's called rolling. So if I'm playing, the coach can pull me out. I have a sip of water, recover, come back onto the pitch. Any number of times, same with any of the athletes. At the 2004 Athens Olympics, there was a study done on how many rolling substitutions were done in a 70-minute match in men's hockey on an average for the full tournament. And the answer was 10 rolling substitutions in a match on an average. The same study was done at the 2021 Tokyo Olympics in men's hockey. The number of rolling substitutions that were done in men's hockey on an average in 2021 compared to 2004? On an average, the teams made 80 rolling substitutions per match. And hockey is now, from a 70-minute game when I played, has become a 60-minute match. So that means more than 1 rolling substitution per minute. Australia did 120 rolling substitutions per match. What is the implication of this? The implication of this is that the match is being played at such a high pace, such a high tempo, that athletes are, so Australia is literally sending 4 new players every 2 minutes, and the players are coming on the ground, they are running at 100 miles per hour. Their heart rate is going to 200 beats per minute in around 1 or 2 minutes, and they get pulled out. So for 60 minutes of the match, you're just as if you're facing a truck that's barreling down upon you. You don't have time to think, you don't have time to breathe, you don't have time to look up. And decision making has to be so quick. And if you're not trained to play at that pace, your decision making will suffer. And so that's how hockey has changed. And every sport is changing. So we have to keep pace with the latest modern training methods, training techniques. Otherwise, we will be left behind as a nation. So the coach is not making the substitution. It's the sports scientist. Every Indian team hockey player is now fitted with a heart rate monitor. The sports scientist knows what is the optimum level that they can take, how much load they can take, when their heart rate will go beyond maximum, and then they have to be pulled out. So this is how a sport has changed and how technology is changing. And across sports, I'm happy to say that we're now using a lot of athlete monitoring systems to ensure that we get the best out of our athletes.
Thank you. Thanks. That was useful. Abhishek Sharma asks a personal question. He says that at some point in time, did you regret retiring from the game at your prime?
No, never regretted. I think I played how much I could. I wanted to retire when I was at the top, and thankfully, people like you, Abhishek, still ask me ki, why did I leave? Rather than people ask me, "Yeah, when are you going to leave? Please leave now." So I'm still happy that people still ask me why did I leave.
Viren, there's a question on developing talent in small cities, and you talked about it. But could there be a sort of a spotting talent kind of an exercise done? Because I know that, a lot of teams abroad, they have their spotting coaches and they go and do it, because sometimes these people don't even know how to contact you, or is there an opportunity and a potential as to how you spot talent? I know India is a very big country and you can't do it everywhere. But do you feel that the case where somebody like an OGQ invest in spotting coaches and go and say in specific for sports, if you do a research and say this region probably is good, and then look at talent which you may not even have discovered otherwise?
Right. So yeah, it's a tricky one. Like you said, India is a very vast nation. It's hard to scout north to south, east to west. We over the last decade and a half, we've created an army of people at the ground level, mostly coaches who are eyes and ears on the ground, and they're tracking every district, every state tournament, under 10, under 12, under 14. So we try our best to get as much data available. But honestly, a kid first has to be playing at least at the district and state level and performing over there for them to come under our radar. If they are not playing at district level, it's hard for us to spot them. And generally, we're not looking at good talent, not very good talent. We're looking at exceptional talent. And exceptional talent, even without support, will win at district level. So, but before that will be hard for us. We don't have the bandwidth or the funding to go so deep. That would be I would say, have to be a government initiative to go so deep.
And after such a rigorous process that you follow to, induct into your training program or your institution, have you had any disappointments after following such a rigorous process?
Multiple disappointments, sir. Like I said, after we researched on 1,000 athletes, selected 110, 30 qualified for the Olympics, 4 won medals. So from the 110 that we selected, 70, 80 did not even qualify for the Olympics. So
how do you deal with that? I mean, how does
see, they might not qualify for the Olympics, but they still play Asian Games, Commonwealth Games, World Cups, World Championships. They still represent the country. They're playing at a very high level. And the good thing is, today in the sports that we are in, most of them are getting jobs, like I said, PSU jobs. They get really good PSU jobs, stability, lifelong support. They're the highest earning members of their family. Most of them come from really poor families. So their life is actually a success. They might have not gone to the Olympics, but they still bring a lot of change in their lives. They're able to help their families, their community, respect in society. So it makes a huge difference to their lives, even to those who do not manage to play the Olympics, but still represent the country.
Okay, I think we've reached almost the end of the time. But one final question, Viren. You have met so many people who have been so inspiring, leaders in their own right. You named a few of them, like Prakash Padukone and so many others that are really, really inspiring. What is the biggest thing, one lesson that you've learned from them?
I think, for me, Prakash Padukone himself has been such a huge mentor and inspiration to me, and such a humble man. And but he might look very soft-spoken, very polite, but he has so much fire in him. Lakshya Sen is his protege, and one thing Prakash sir has always told Lakshya as well as me, he never settle for being anything less than the best you can be, and keep pushing the bar, keep pushing the limits, never be complacent. And I think that's a big learning for me, because in sport you can never be complacent. and never settle for being second best. And when we are working with elite athletes, we work at the edge always. If you push above the edge, athlete can get injured. If you don't push hard enough, someone out there somewhere in the world is pushing harder than you. So we are working at the edge, but like Prakash sir says, and I keep it in my mind every day, never settle for being second best.
On that high note, Viren, let me end this by saying a big thank you to you. We are very, very grateful that you could find the time and come here and talk to us. You must see some of the comments on the chat. They have been truly, people have said you are very inspiring. It has been very enlightening. They have said, some of them have said that you should organize talks like this more often. So this has been truly, truly inspirational. And, you know, a lot of things that you've said from the heart. So which really makes it more effective. I wish you all the best in your journey. OJQ has done a fantastic job. You yourself personally has been so passionate and inspirational. You know, we've seen the journey, and, you know, I can speak for Deepak and myself, who's also supporting OJQ, that it's been truly a great experience for partners like us to see where you and the executive board has taken it. And, you know, I wish you only the best, and a lot of lessons for, you know, from yours for management people like us, because, you know, you can sort of connect the two, sports and management, whether it's on the failure front, whether it's on the process front, whether it's on the inspirational story front. There have been great entrepreneurs who've had very, very inspiring stories like sports person. So a lot of learning there. So thank you once again. And, you know, just to let you know the numbers today, we've had almost 500 people watching you today. We had 308 on LinkedIn, 80 on Facebook, about 60 on Twitter, and 31 on YouTube. So thank you for doing this.
Plus over 200 who are logged in here. So
and 200 logged in here. So, you know, you've cost 700. So thank you. And, you know, hope to connect with you on some other forum through AIMA on this. Thank you so much. Rekha, any closing comments?
No, I just want to thank you for an absolutely inspiring and wonderful talk. We have never had such wonderful comments on the chat before as today. And I think they are great takeaways from what you have said. And I think all of us are going to go back much more enriched than we were when we started the session. Thank you so much. And I hope we will have the pleasure of maybe having a physical session with you and AIMA in the near future.
Thank you, Rekha. Thank you, Dempo sir. You are a huge inspiration to me, and I really look up to you. So thank you for inviting me, and thank you for all your help and support, sir.
Thank you. And thanks to everybody who joined us today. Thank you. And
thank you, Deepak sir, for all the
questions. Thank you.
Thank you all. And with this, we